Welcome. In this video I want to show you my explosive spear shattering palm combo that I played my character with in 0.2. It was kind of rough throughout the campaign, but now it became very satisfying. So I thought it was appropriate to make a build showcase to show you the interaction and explain how it works. So basically it's very simple. You use Shattering Palm to cover the enemies in the ice shards, and then you use Explosive Spear in order to trigger the ice shards and to freeze the enemies. This then freezes the enemies and gives you your Frenzy Charge back. And from there it's rinse and repeat. My current gear is nothing special, just what I found along the way, plus a charm that I bought and a chest that I bought for 8x. So nothing very expensive so far, but it works perfectly fine for the white maps I'm in right now. And this charm helps a lot with frenzy generation. If you get any lightning damage, you get a frenzy charge, which is especially important if you want to do some single target with Wind Serpent's Fury. As you can see, I'm pretty much fresh out of campaign, so the resistances are not maxed yet, and my defenses are on the lower end so far. So I'm a little squishy when I jump in. I have to be very careful to not die. I will just hover over my skills and supports here real quick. I don't think they are optimized by any way, but this is how it works for me so far. The single target is definitely lacking so far, but I also don't have enough Jewel's Orbs so far to maximize all of my gems. Wind Serpent's Fury probably needs a heft in order to increase its damage more. And then we have Combat Frenzy, which is the most important one of the Spirit Gems, because it allows you to generate your Frenzy Charges for the Explosive Spear by using Shattering Palm to freeze the enemies. Then we go into the skill tree. It's also work in progress, so don't copy it one by one. If I decide to run more charms, there's some good charm nodes around the tree right next to where I'm pathing right now, so they could be a good addition to the build. It probably helps to get some more of the frenzy charges for more damage and for easier sustain. I started with a Ritualist, however, I don't think this is recommended or needed for this build. You could just as well go for Amazon or invoke a monk or whatever else you want to play with it. Maybe even the Dead Eye for the frenzy charges could be a good idea. As I said, bossing needs a little bit of work. The single target in general is not very efficient. There's some nice interactions with the flaming ground from the detonating spear, which works well with the bell, and the freezing from the shattering palm. And the idea for single target is to put down the bell and then use Wind Serpent's Fury in order to knock the bell into the boss and create a shockwave that is then amplified by the bell. So far the success with this is mediocre, but as I said, I also don't have the support gems for Wind Fury so far, and I haven't balanced out the scaling for the different types of attacks that I have in my trees. Just went for elemental so far, but it could be better to go for attack damage, for example, to have a better baseline. Plus, Wind Serpent's Fury doesn't scale with the elemental damage, so it doesn't surprise me that I don't do too much damage with it so far. But that should be an easy fix. But I had good moments, for example, when I found my first rogue exile, it basically exploded at the spot. I did start using the combo as soon as it became available during the campaign, but I didn't have my frenzy charge generation by that point. So in total it became kind of a kite fest where I just used Frost Strike to proc it, which is of course an own build in itself, so you just can use Frost Strike and Shattering Palm to have a regular monk build basically. But I find the explosion with the fire anti-ice much more satisfying to play with, so that's why I combined it like this. You probably can use Combat Frenzy instead of Herald of Ice, because the explosions are big enough without the Herald, and then your explosion with the Explosive Spear is much bigger and leaves a ignited ground effect that helps you to kill the enemies much more easy and smoothens out your rotation. I don't recommend using this build for leveling, as it needs 2 weapon types, which is very hard to balance when you have no resources at all. You can, however, swap to it as soon as you get Shattering Palm, I think, because the explosions themselves deal so much damage that clearing is very easy with it. You will still need Ice Strike for the bossing and single target, however. The most difficult part with this build is to get into a map and not have any frenzy charges. Then you struggle around a little bit to get your first, but afterwards it's rather smooth sailing with the explosions, as you can see here. The goal would be to drop Ice Strike and then go with Shattering Palm and Explosions alone, and then only use Wind Serpent's Fury for bosses or more tanky enemies. Maybe adding in a disengage would help with awkward situations where you're inside of the mobs and being pushed around and not being able to throw your spear. So either you use disengage for more frenzy charge generation if you can make a use of it, or maybe even use Frozen Locus, which is the other monk combination for Shattering Palm. So you just use Shattering Palm and Frozen Locus in a combination. There's some guides out there from last season for Frozen Locus and Shattering Palm. I love to tinker with the community, so any kind of feedback is highly welcome. If you have any ideas how to improve the build, to scale the single target more, as well as ideas for supports or even the skill tree, I would be very appreciative. This video is more about showing a cool interaction than being a full build guide, as it is all work in progress and doesn't blast as much as some builds that are out there already, like Stormlands, for example, or the Twister combination. The build is extremely satisfying, and after you generated your first frenzy charge, the build self-sustains frenzy charges very easily. If you decide to try it out, let me know how it goes. Until then, stay sane and see you in game.